Hey, how are you?
Jeff Eastwood.
Jan Cobb. Nice to meet you.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Board of Commissioners meeting, this July 11th of 2023. I'm pleased today we have Pastor Jeff Geisman here with Burnt Hickory Church of Christ. He will be providing our invocation, which will be followed by Firefighter 3, Jan Fox. She will be providing our pledge. For those of you willing and able, please stand for both our invocation and pledge.
Bow if you would. Holy and precious Father, thank you for a beautiful day. Thank you for the marvels of the blessings that you give us and the lives that we all enjoy. Father, I pray your blessings on this commission as they meet today and all who have come before it. I pray that all can speak from the goodness of their hearts for the well-being of each other as we all work and live together in this community. Thank you, Lord, for such a beautiful place to live. And I pray for this commission as it works to preserve all of the good that it can for all of the citizens. Again, Father, bless us all. In Jesus' holy name I pray. Amen.
Good morning. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Before we get started today, Commissioners, we have a couple of matters to add to our agenda as, well, at least one matter to add as a non-agenda item, and then I'd like for us to also address the hearing that we had scheduled for the end of today's meeting, as there is a desire to move that in the consent agenda, and wanted to know if there is anyone in the audience here today who is opposed to Rees 427 LLC doing business as a liquor store. Is there anyone here for that hearing today? Okay, seeing none, Commissioners, I would advise that we go ahead and put this on our consent agenda as was discussed yesterday. And is there a motion to add this as a non-agenda item? We'll need to add that with 4/5 vote.
Chairwoman, if we have it as item 40, so what we need to do is withdraw item 40 or substitute the consent motion for that. So if we can do that we can do that in one motion.
Should we move to withdraw it first?
That'd be fine.
Okay. So I'll substitute that motion. Commissioners, I'll go ahead and move that we withdraw agenda item 40 for the liquor store, even though I have that listed here as 42, Pam.
The hearing is item number 40. The addition to consent is 42.
Okay, all right. So we will withdraw agenda item number 40. Part of the motion. Is there a second? Any further discussion? Commissioner Gamble.
I'd like the clerk to add in my statement that is currently found on page 168 of today's agenda.
All right.
And mine is submitted for the record as well.
All right. Thank you, Commissioners. Is there any other discussion for withdrawing this item? All right.
Ask if the applicant is here.
I know, Dr. Parks. Yeah. Call the question. The motion carries 5-0. And then, Commissioners, we will need to add this as a non-agenda item. So, Commissioners, I move that we add the agenda item that we withdrew as a non-agenda item on our consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Call the question. The motion carries 5-0. Commissioners, we also have another item to add to consent that was addressed yesterday in our agenda by our Police Chief Van Hooser, for approval of a project agreement with Controlled Access Incorporated for the purchase and installation of mobile camera systems. Commissioners, I move that we add this to our consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Call the question. The motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Commissioners, and thank you, audience, for bearing with us. With that, we're going to move into the presentation portion of our meeting. We have one presentation today, which will be brought by Commissioner Sheffield.
Parks, come on down. Parks and Rec, excuse me. Parks and Rec.
One rodeo down, 3 to go.
Where's Ross? He usually lines us up really nicely. Come on in, come on
Gary's
in.
here.
Oh,
I don't see Ross. Good morning.
come on in.
How are y'all?
I do know that the taller people should go in the back.
How are y'all?
Hey, Elliot. Brantley, get in here. Dr. Gibson, come on. Gary, should we squeeze in and just be picture ready? Just take a lot? Okay. All right. Parks and recreation are an integral part of communities throughout the country, especially Cobb County. Parks and recreations promote health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people who live near these facilities. Parks and recreation professionals play a vital role in bringing together, providing essential services, and fostering the growth of our communities. Parks and recreation increase our county's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And we, the Cobb County Board of Commissioners, do hereby designate July as Parks and Recreation Month and salute the constant hard work of those who bring joy to our community, make our parks facilities outstanding, and create a wide variety of exciting recreational programs. This 11th day of July, 2023. I have to give you the mic. Do you want to talk?
Yeah, she asked me if I wanted to talk. Come on, yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. This is our plug. July is Parks and Recreation Month. We encourage everyone to get out and visit a park, visit a facility, sign up for a program, walk a trail, do anything you can to get out in public. We would really appreciate that. What we do, and when I say we, it's the people behind me, they do amazing work with amazing things. We have people up here from all walks that do many different things, whether it be special needs programs, whether it be day camps, whether it be aquatics, teaching kids to swim. We do it all. We have our maintenance staff up here. So these are a little bit of everybody that we've got that do what we do in our parks every day, and we appreciate everything they do. They work long hours, weekends, nights. You would be amazed at some of the programs that we put on. So I appreciate them every day, and I tell them every day, thank you for what you do. So we're just honored to have this, and we appreciate it. Yes, we also have, we have Elliot Henning, one of our recreation board members is here with us this morning, and we actually have a recreation board meeting tonight, so we're pulling double duty today, aren't we, Elliot? So that's how we do it, so we appreciate that. But we appreciate everything that commissioners do for us. We couldn't do it without the support of the commissioners, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And the tips. Give them a round of applause. Okay, we got to move.
We'll go up here. Yeah, I'll just stand up here to make a little bit more room.
Now we're tall.
3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much.
A special thanks for our chariot, Michael.
Oh, yeah,
Where's
that's
Howard?
right.
Harold.
We are now at our public hearing tab, and our first matter is with respect to DOT. We'll have a public hearing regarding formation of a proposed streetlight district.
That's good. Thank you. Good morning, Chairwoman and Board of Commissioners. I'm Jonathan Nee with the Department of Transportation. Item number 3 of this agenda is to conduct a public hearing regarding formation of the proposed Brookcliff Streetlight District and authorize creation of the Brookcliff Streetlight District. The Brookcliff Streetlight Division, or the Brookcliff subdivision earlier this year has circulated a petition for the addition of streetlights with at least 75% of the respective properties registering a vote in favor. Therefore, this area has met the required support threshold for the addition of streetlights on existing streets as outlined in the county street ordinance. Of the 155 properties on the petition, there were 133 properties signing in support, or 85% within the subdivision. Per County Code Section 106-48, after a streetlight district petition is reviewed by county staff and confirmed that it meets these requirements, notice of petition signs are installed at entrances of the proposed district for 10 days. The signage states that a public hearing can be requested in writing within this 10-day period. Within this allotted timeframe, the department did receive written requests from a Brookcliff resident requesting that a public hearing be held regarding the creation of the proposed Brookcliff Streetlight District. Therefore, the department recommends the Board of Commissioners conduct this public hearing regarding formation of the proposed Brookcliff Streetlight District. This concludes my staff presentation and will be available for questions after public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Okay. As was stated, we have a public hearing with respect to the creation of this streetlight district. The public hearing comments should pertain to the streetlight district and the streetlight district only. We'll take a number of speakers to address this matter, and you'll have a maximum of 3 minutes to address the board. With that, I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for anyone who wishes to speak. Yes, sir, please come on up.
For those that may want to participate, you can kind of line up on this wall over here, then we can call each of you up after the other one finishes.
And please state your name for the record before you begin.
Walt Strother.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you for your time and thank you for your service to our county. As I said, my name is Walt Strother, and I'm from Brookcliff Subdivision. We're here to ask your approval in making our neighborhood an electric district. I moved into Brookcliff in May of 1979, and I'm considered an old-timer, one of the original property owners. My wife Sheila and I have lived in this wonderful neighborhood for 44 years, raised 2 daughters here, and my 5 grandchildren love to come visit. For most of those years, we've worked to become an illumination district. That's what they used to call it for the old-timers, an illumination district. Our quest to have streetlights was never a spur-of-the-moment decision or effort. For the better part of the past 40 years, several marginal attempts have been made, most recently 20 years ago. We have 155 homes, as you just heard, but we're not organized, nor were we well led. No clear focus, no direction, sometimes well-intended, but ineffective. I believe several of you have had some experience with HOAs, POAs. Most homeowners do not want to serve at all. Those who do volunteer generally want to serve their time and then leave the position as soon as possible. It's like herding cats. Finally, 3 years ago, there was a collective, enough is enough. And there begins our 27-month journey to get to this point today. We finally got and have a terrific POA, HOA board. We finally got the leadership we needed, the fiscal competence, the organizational skills, the open communication, and more importantly, accountability. The board immediately put out a survey asking, what can we do to make Brookcliff a better place in which to live? The response was immediate and overwhelming: streetlights. We wanted what you, the county, wants us to have, what you codified in February of 1979, stating that all neighborhoods should have streetlights. We now have a common goal. It was a clear mandate from our neighborhood, and it became our initiative. We are unified, mission-driven, and we're passionate about this. The Department of Transportation here in Cobb County outlined the process, no equivocation, no exceptions. They've been terrific, answering all the questions we've asked along the way. We formed a streetlight committee to report to our board, no shortage of volunteers, and we now stand before you asking for your approval. By the way, our odyssey to get here also drew the neighborhood closer together. It was a cathartic event. Neighbors were meeting neighbors they never knew, even a few that preferred to isolate themselves, making new friends.
Mr. Strother?
It was a great experience.
I'm sorry, your time is up, Mr. Strother.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
The next public speaker.
Good morning, Commissioners, Commissioner Chairman. My name is John Swearinga, and I have lived in Brookcliff with my wife and 4 children since 1998, and I'm currently on the Streetlight Committee. In our community, my neighbors walk their kids to preschool, they walk or jog for exercise, and walk their dogs. AJC still delivers a newspaper to my home before dawn, and now Amazon, FedEx, and UPS are providing around-the-clock deliveries. And of course, the garbage truck runs early in the dark hours in the wintertime. Additionally, I'm a highly trained, credential, certified safety professional. My specialty is fleet safety. I have worked for Fortune 100 companies. My whole career has centered around keeping workers and members of the public safe and injury-free as my company conducts its business. I have spent countless hours evaluating work sites to make them safer. And one key component is that adequate lighting is critical for any nighttime operation. Your eyes are the primary safety sensory organ, but need light to see hazards. I have investigated many nighttime accidents, and poor or low lighting or lack of lighting is almost always a major contributing factor. And even in a neighborhood, a 25-mile-per-hour vehicle or pedestrian collision could be fatal or cause life-changing injuries. Today, I'm asking the Commission to vote yes for the streetlights in Brookcliff. We need a light that shines nightly to keep our streets safe for all. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker.
Good morning. I'm here today to address 2 items regarding the Brookcliff Streetlight District. One is an overreach by the board, and the second one is misinformation. The Brookcliff Board does not have the authority to dedicate $48,000 to new capital expenses. They are charged with maintaining and managing the existing recreational facilities. Our bylaws even give details on holding special meetings and voting, which they ignored and unilaterally agreed to divert funds from their intended use. Our neighborhood has 155 homes, which has already been mentioned. What they didn't mention is that we have 3 tiers of membership. We have 126 full members, who pay for the pool and tennis courts. We have 10 civic members who only have access to the trails, and we have 19 non-members who pay for nothing. Essentially, the board is showing bias by taking funds intended for pool and tennis and upkeep of the neighborhood and diverting it for new capital expenditure of streetlights. They knew that if they had to ask every member in the neighborhood or every household to pay $300, this initiative would not have gotten 75% of the votes. I contacted our board president, who's speaking next, regarding this allocation of funds. The board president, he said the board can decide how they want to spend the money. They met the requirements of the bylaws by emailing out the budget, and it was a done deal. It took me about an hour digging through my emails to find the budget that they emailed out. So yes, they met the requirements of the bylaws by emailing out the budget in an email titled agenda and an attachment labeled agenda. It was not easy to find. I talked with several neighbors after I finally found the budget, and none of the ones that I talked to were aware that they were diverting $48,000 to the streetlights, or that our budget was in the red by $54,000 this year. In their defense, the board might say that the money coming from the neighborhood is listed on the petition for the streetlights. However, John, who just spoke, when he talked to my husband and I about getting our vote, thought the money was coming from Cobb County. Do you guys want to pay for our streetlights? Because we could finish real quick. I had no idea if he, after my husband and I corrected him, if he misinformed anyone else. I talked to another neighbor, the Todds, who are in favor of streetlights, and they were unaware of the diversion of funds and said they would rather have the money spent on updating the pool than on lights. So I requested on May 2nd for the streetlight proposal document to be more clear about the funding, and specifically that our proposed budget for the year is $54K in the red. They ignored my request.
Excuse me, ma'am, your 3 minutes are up. Would you mind stating your name for the record?
Sure, it's Cindy Kurkowski.
Okay.
Thank you.
The board has sent over 25 emails.
Sorry,
Your 3
time
minutes
is
are up.
run.
Oh, okay,
Thank you.
that's fine. Thank you for your time.
Supplemental handout. Hi, my name is Mike Kelly. I am the 33-year resident of Brook Cliff, the president of the HOA. I had a prepared presentation, but I think we'll divert a little bit based on the last testimony. And I would start by saying disengagement from the neighborhood is not an excuse. Every bylaw, every county code that was required to be met was done. The board has the authority to create an agenda. We followed our bylaws. There is no association approval needed for that budget. There are conditions if we go over a particular line item that goes back to an association vote. In terms of transparency, there were surveys done. There were over 250 contacts. This was a 27-month process. For anybody to claim they didn't know what was going on, frankly, is not a result of any lack of effort by the grassroots residents of Brook Cliff. We have a monthly newsletter. There were 12 editions that go to every landlord, every tenant, every resident that provided an update. 7 board meetings we covered. We had a meeting with Amy Garner from Cobb EMC after hours, well attended. Anybody that wanted to ask questions about streetlights could attend. That meeting lasted an hour and a half and every question was answered. So did we meet the requirements? Everybody got a petition and a lighting map. We had to achieve at least 75%. You heard from the DOT that we received 85%. Petitions were returned within 90 days. And to address the fiscal side of things, those funds are budgeted. They were approved per our bylaws. We followed everything that had to be followed. And it's critical to understand that we have the highest cash balance this POA has ever had in its history, over 44 years. That was done with no special assessments. That was done with no loans. That was done with no increase in dues. We're forecasting right now that we're ahead of budget $73,000. Even after the payment of streetlights, we'll be ahead of budget by $27,000. We budget very conservatively. So there isn't a single other project in the neighborhood that's being stalled, that's being diverted. There's no diversion of funds.
out of this budget. It was its own line item in the budget. It wasn't buried somewhere. There was a line item called streetlight shortfall. Anybody that cared to take the time to look at the budget, not 5 months later, but at the time when it came out, it was right there, and they were free to ask questions and so forth. So I would humbly ask, if you look at this map, every highlighted lot in green in Brookcliff here voted yes for the petition. Those in pink voted no. The 4 that didn't vote, didn't return a petition. 3 were rental properties, 2 large corporate owned. So there's no question there's a mandate from Brookcliff. The county's required them for over 44 years. Brookcliff needs them and wants them. The DOT has recommended we move forward. I humbly ask the commission that you go ahead and give Brookcliff and its current residents and all future residents what the rest of most of East Cobb and Cobb County has been able to benefit from for the last 44 years.
Sorry, your time's up.
Thank you.
Daniel Larkin, Meadowbrook. I felt prompted to speak on behalf of the people, and I apologize. As long as this isn't involving any of the people's money, and this is an HOA thing, which you knew that going in because you bought in a neighborhood with covenants. My only concern was, and forgive me if I'm not sure about this, but that when you buy a neighborhood, this is my point, if this neighborhood probably has underground power, which is a very nice thing to have. I'm assuming you all have underground power because if you had street poles, then it's not a big deal to hang a light on them. So my point is, you're in a neighborhood that has a desirable trait, which would be underground utilities. It's visually appealing and it doesn't get knocked out in storms. I just don't want the people, the citizens, to have to pick up another tab thrown in our lap by a developer who came through and didn't make a provision for streetlights, and then I just don't want it to fall on the people. That's all I care about. This is a private matter, and I'm thinking that they're fighting amongst themselves on how to get streetlights. But that's not really, as long as it doesn't affect the people's money, and a developer came through and then left the bill on some other projects that happened in this county for the citizens to pick up. That's all I care about, that we watch out for the people's money. That woman seemed to have a very good point, though, and I would implore the commissioners to look into that, to make sure that those pool funds weren't moved sideways. It sounded like there was some truth in her voice. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, commissioners. Thank you for having us. We appreciate it. My name is Mike Galt, and I've been a resident of Brookcliff since 1996. We moved here in the Olympic year, so that was a blast. I'm here today to tell you that it was always been dark. We have 100-year-old trees in our neighborhood. Makes it beautiful. We have half-acre lots, and it is just incredibly dark. It's always been dark. When I first moved here, I had a black lab, and I worked downtown. And I had to come home. I got home 8, went out to walk at 8 o'clock, and literally I spent half my time jogging cars. Now, I will tell you, I finally got smart, and I bought vests for both of us and the dogs. And so I just want to say that now that we all know that Cobb County has also, the school district, there are not nearly as many bus stops. When my kids were growing up, there was a bus stop right in front of our house. Now it's moved up the corner, and the kids that are going to middle school only have 2 spots in the neighborhood to pick up the bus. That's a lot of time that they're in the dark trying to get to bus stops, particularly in the winter. So my part here is emotional. We also brought a couple of videos that I know we can't show you, but these are from people who have moved into our neighborhood recently and have younger kids, and they wanted to express their opinion, but unlike me, they have to work. So So again, thank you for your time. I hope that you vote in favor of this. It's something that we've needed since 1996, since I moved in. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers with respect to this matter? Yes, ma'am.
I was going to tell you.
Okay, go ahead and state your name for the record, please.
My name is Lilia Sadhu.
Okay.
And I am I met my house when it was just the frame in 1979. And I don't ever want to improve the life of Brooklyn for myself, to move somewhere else bigger and more expensive, because we have a wonderful community. It's a jewel. And what I ask is, what is going to happen to the beauty of our neighborhood, which includes so much natural life? Just 2 weeks ago, from my deck, I witnessed a dog giving birth to a fawn felt so secure in my yard in the back. And I don't want to destroy in trying, because all of us have good intentions, but I don't know. I don't know how many people have had accidents, because I never heard of one, and it's 43 years that I live in the neighborhood. I don't know how many people have had such problems with security. Look at all that is happening in the world right now, because we are not paying attention to very important things. Very important things. I have 7 grandchildren, and I am concerned about what's going on in nature. So I almost felt like I shouldn't come and talk, but in the years that I have lived there, from time to time they have brought up the issue of lights, and we have not voted for it. And the last vote that was taken, we didn't vote for it. But the board wants the lights. And they said, well, we're going to send people. And they chose really good people, that are well-liked, to go door to door until it got, I have to read this because this is not me speaking, but I'm speaking for my friend who was here earlier, the woman who spoke earlier, Cindy.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, your time's up.
Oh, okay. Well, I said what I had to say. I'm just an old lady. I'm 72 years old. But I really, really love my neighborhood and really, really appreciate your caring for us.
Thank you. Your time is run. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairwoman,
Good
Commissioners. I wasn't actually going to speak, but now I decided to do so. When you live in an HOA, it's up to you.
Yes,
Christine Rosman,
thank you.
sorry.
Thank
Christine
you.
Rosman. When you live in an HOA, it's a pain, but there's some great things about it. In the same way that as citizens, we want to hold our commissioners accountable. Where we live, we want to keep our HOA accountable. We had the same HOA president for 20 years, and his wife has been in charge of the biggest expense, which is landscape, for 20 years. we push, and a lot of times we couldn't get anything done. And this is what's happening, is that but when you're an HOA, you have your covenants. And then you signed up for something. You signed up for relinquishing a lot of your own decision-making to somebody else. I have to have a certain color door. I have to have a certain color mailbox, a certain color house, shutters. Like I can't plant something if I wanted to. So that's part of being in that. And part of it is really a pain in the rear end, which is keeping up with that. And I feel for them if they're getting like, holy cow, our money is going towards something if it was not clearly stated. So I feel for the people that are in HOA, but at the same time, it's the same thing that I do to you guys every month, and I do to my own HOA, is hold them accountable. It's not my fault if they do something and I don't say something. So I'm just saying this is, put it up there. I'm on your side this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers with respect to this matter for the creation of the Streetlight District, and particularly the Brookcliff community?
My name is Pete Eldridge.
Thank you.
As a Cobb County taxpayer, I don't think this should be a burden put on the rest of Cobb County. If we pick up the tab for every little subdivision, every little improvement they want in their own HOA, that's up to them. Put it on them, not on us. As far as the gentleman saying that the school buses come and pick up the kids in the dark, I've lived in houses here in Cobb County, the elementary school, and as a school bus driver, I know we pick up kids in the dark. Many subdivisions, HOAs even. Streetlights just don't come on at 7 a.m. because it's right there at the dusk. Middle schoolers, they're in the daytime. I don't care where you live in Cobb County. They only get picked up in the daytime. Same with high schoolers. There's no dark time there. Plain and simple. As far as security, if they want security, they should pick it up with their own HOA and make covenants or something so that they can go ahead and put up their own lights at their house, security lights, so each individual can feel safe in their own home. It's not up to the Cobb County taxpayers to pay for this. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers with respect to the Streetlight District? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Commissioners. Hi, my name is Kathy Slough. I do not live in Brookcliff, and I have no notes. I was just motivated by the people on both sides that care enough about their HOA. I'm a retired 14-year board member on the board of directors of a 280 condo complex, and I was treasurer and I managed $1.25 million budget. And I was also secretary, so I can see both sides. I'm a hiker, cyclist, I love our parks, and I love animals. I'm a vegetarian, that's how much I love animals. And I can totally relate to the animals in your backyard with the fawn, and then I can totally relate needing street lights. So I can see both sides, and I thank you for listening to them. And just, I don't have a cent in this, but I wanted to say thank you for listening to them. Thank you all for caring enough about your community to get up at 7 a.m. like I did and take my Dachshund out and be here speaking your mind and not be apathetic. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers with respect to this matter? Okay, seeing none. Jonathan, if you don't mind approaching.
Good morning once again, Jonathan Yu with the Department of Transportation. There were several comments made during the public comment. I'd like to go over those to clarify some items for the board and to the public. First of all, thank you for everyone showing up this morning. As the previous speaker said, the staff in the department welcomes public involvement, and I believe we had a good showing of that today, this morning. Speaker number 3, Ms. Cindy mentioned a few points. One was a mention of a $45,000 contribution by the Property Owners Association within the subdivision. So that's in respect to a contribution that the department is requesting towards the upfront capital costs. So the department did work with Cobb EMC, which is the local utility provider. There was an estimate of approximately $80,000 towards the upfront installation and costs of new poles to provide lighting within this district to satisfy the need of the subdivision. Per County Code Section 106-50, Section B, it does state that the costs of providing and maintaining the lighting, as well as the upfront costs, is entirely borne by the subdivision parcels, and therefore to obtain funds for that $80,000, as part of the petition, staff did notify petitioners that there will be a $9.80 charge per month for the first 36 months. Part of that fee is to go towards the maintenance, but part of it is also towards the upfront costs. And the remaining portion outside of that fee collected is the $45,000 that the speaker, Ms. Cindy, did mention. And so as part of the action related to formation of the streetlight district, the $45,000 would be needed to pay for the upfront costs, and that would be paid by the Property Owners Association of the subdivision. There was also comments, I believe, from speaker number 5, Mr. Daniel, and speaker number 9, Mr. Pete, about just the general public concern about county taxpayers bearing the costs for the streetlights, whether that's upfront or maintenance. And I would just like to refer to the previous code section, that's 106-50, Section B, once again, where the entire cost for providing, installing, and maintaining and operating the streetlights, it is borne by the subdivision owners, and that's paid for by a monthly fee that is assessed to each parcel within that subdivision. As I mentioned, that's $9.80 per month for the first 36 months, and then that'll be $3.80 per month after that towards ongoing maintenance. And I believe that covers most of the points brought up by the public, and from there I can turn it back to you, Chairwoman, if there's any comments or questions from the board.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Jonathan? Okay.
Good morning, Jonathan.
Good morning.
Yesterday at our work session, we discussed that if this is approved today, that DOT would work with the HOA and the neighbors for placement of the streetlights. There was also, I think, some question or concern of the lighting, and I know that most of the utilities are now going to, the companies are going to the LED lights, but we want to make sure that they don't shine in on, they shine down and not out to windows and doors of people's homes. And I know you, Drew had mentioned yesterday that y'all would work with the neighbors on the placement if this is approved.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. So
Okay.
when the department did send out the petition, there was a layout that staff did receive from Cobb EMC on potential locations of the streetlights within the subdivision. If there are specific concerns related to any part of that design, staff is willing to collaborate with the neighbors as needed. We will work with the utility provider to ensure that the lighting does primarily shine down and towards the roadway and not, I guess you would say, back away from the street and towards windows or doors of the buildings.
Okay. And then the other comments you had about the installation cost, in Mr. Kelly's handout, the petition for streetlights from the county has all that information in there. So I'm assuming that they presented that to their HOA members or the neighborhood. As you know, we can't enforce covenants. That's out of our control. But the installation amount, the $45,000, and the monthly fee, the $980 for 36 months, and then the $380 after that, is all spelled out in here. So, and then he also has an Exhibit 5, and I'll submit this. I guess it's already submitted for the record, Pam. Yeah. He has the cost in there, so I don't know where the comments are for them being in the red. It's my understanding that the money is there, but that, again, that's their covenants, and we can't interfere with that. But it pretty much is spelled out what you said in the installation cost and the monthly fee at the head of the petition where the signatures would come. So it seems like most everybody was notified. And the other point, the requirements that we have for street lights, first of all, in my 13 years of being here, we've never had a public hearing. I know that someone requested it, and we're having it now, but I've never heard of another public hearing for street light. Most subdivisions welcome the street lights for safety and other issues, but it is requested, and we are here today for that. But they also, 75% of the subdivision is required, signatures for approval are required. And this particular subdivision had 85% requesting approval. So do you have anything else that needs to be added?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. So I guess to clarify the point, at least in terms of the action the department is recommending before the board today, the action is to recommend authorization of creation of that streetlight and just necessary budgetary transactions to ultimately receive the $45,000 requested for the upfront costs. But any work to actually install or proceed forward to actually install poles or lighting, it would be dependent upon receiving the $45,000 from the Property Owners Association. So I think there was some comments about private matters in terms of whether that $45,000 should actually be provided from the Property Owners Association to the county for the district. But the action before the board today, it is just to authorize the creation of that district and then prepare to ultimately receive the check to then move forward to the next steps. So the private matter, it would ultimately be independent. Definitely a critical path to ultimately receiving lighting in the area, but it is independent from the action before the board today.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Certainly some of the topics that came up in the work session, and appreciate DOT's willingness to look at the best way to orient the lighting patterns within this district. And we, this certainly meets the threshold for what it is that we as a board have to look at and can confer upon. And hearing some of the safety considerations, it seems like this neighborhood has been trying for this for some time now. And so I'm certainly happy to make a motion to approve this agenda item.
Second.
Okay, and just to clarify, this motion is to authorize creation of the Brookcliff Streetlight District. Yep. Okay.
I can clarify that for the board. So the department recommendation is to authorize creation of the Brookcliff Streetlight District and also further authorize the corresponding budget transaction.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Had to move. Yes, thank you. Motion to approve the creation of the streetlight district.
With the associated budget transaction.
With the associated budget transaction.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, is there any further discussion? Call the question. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Commissioners. With that-
Question, point of, just, sorry. Okay. Point of, did we need to retract or amend that motion, substitute that motion? Or is that standing for meeting? Okay, thank you. Apologies.
Yes. Thank you. We are now on to our next public hearing, which will be to conduct the first public hearing on the 2023 proposed property tax increase provided by, or as defined by Georgia law.
Good morning, Chairwoman, Commissioners, Deputy County Manager. Okay, as the Chairwoman stated, this is our first public hearing regarding the FY23 millage. And the schedule is up here on the screen here. We had our advertisement as required in the MDJ on June 29th. First public hearing is this morning. We will have a second special called public hearing on July 18th at 6 p.m. And our third and final public hearing will be on July 25th, followed by adoption at 7 p.m. All these activities are conducted in compliance with Georgia state law and county code. And then the proposed millage rate we have in front of you here, this is the 22 adopted as well as the 23 proposed. As you go down those, you notice that the general fund, fire fund are going to be the same as they were the previous year, as well as the special service district for Cumberland and the Six Flags Special Service District. Those are all remaining the same. We did experience digest growth in 2023, and I'm going to give you some more details as we walk through that. Okay, so hopefully this is easy to see, but we want to walk through this because this is kind of the overall digest as we experience countywide. We did have, as a part of our advertisement, a 15% total digest growth, but one of the things we want to point out, and the key to Cobb County, is we have exemptions, specifically the homestead exemption. That brings our net digest growth down to 10.49%. And one of the items that we want to just cover real quickly is that second to bottom line, the exemptions, the M&O. You'll see that change 3.6 as we walk through that. And just to kind of give you a comparison, in 2023, that the exemptions is 38% of the residential digest. In 2014, that was 25.6%. So the exemptions have grown, and that is one of the things that makes Cobb County unique. And we're going to touch on that when we give an example of a tax bill. But on your primary residence, the homestead exemption keeps your original amount flat. So even if your assessment goes up, you don't pay any more in the county's general fund. One of the areas that we do not experience that is in the fire fund. The fire fund does not have the similar exemption. But again, that is on your primary residence. So, and I do apologize, this is probably extremely hard to see, but we do want to make sure we gave you an example. So you don't have to see it, but I will kind of walk you through this. We did pull a property that had a fair market value in 2022 of $414,160. And that property is reassessed in 2023. And that value, fair market value, increased to $535,460. Now with that, the general fund, as you can see at the table at the bottom, which is really the numbers we want to spend some time on, didn't change because of the homestead exemption. So even though this property did have an increase in their assessed value, the general fund property tax that you'll see on your bill would remain exactly the same. The fire, because it does not have that homestead exemption, would go up $145.07. Now, we know the school board has advertised the proposed reduction in their millage rate, so we went ahead and factored that in. Even with the proposed reduction, that would increase $876.19, even after the proposed reduction. So that is one of the big things we want to call out to your attention. Again, the focus here has always been, and traditionally has been, the general fund. But because of the homestead exemption, doesn't matter what the assessed value is, that amount does not change. Fire is unique and does not have that same ability. So when we talk about the county's taxes for residential primary residence, that is our area of focus, is general and fire fund. And part of that is to show what the homestead exemption would save this property. So in 2023, the homestead exemption saves this property $673.75. Okay, any questions on this slide? Okay. All right, so with that, Chairwoman, I would ask that you, oh, sorry.
Question, Bill.
Yes.
Go ahead, Commissioner Bill.
Can you go back to the
Absolutely.
slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you clarify that the school board tax is, they set their own millage? We have no authority or jurisdiction over that. We just collect the taxes for them, and we have to approve them after they set the millage to go to the state.
That is correct. So, and preparing for this presentation, we did confer with the school board to get their proposed millage rate for 2023. But as the commissioner stated, the Cobb County Tax Commissioner does collect the property taxes for the Cobb County Board of Education and is remitted to the Cobb County Board of Education upon collection. We have no authority to set their millage. Simply, we serve as a collection agency for them to, as well as a billing agency.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Similar to the last public hearing, we'll take an unlimited number of speakers to address the matter of the millage and to address this matter only. And we'll go ahead and open up our public hearing at this time. You'll have a maximum of 3 minutes. Yes, ma'am.
It's the vegetarian again.
Again, you'll need to state your name for the record.
Sure, my name still is Kathy Slough. Thanks for the time here. I gotta talk fast, it looks like. I'm asking you not to increase our property taxes. Okay, here's why. I sent you all an email. Ms. McMorris said at the recent board meeting, transparency. I asked for a list of the charities. I sent it to all of you and her. It never said anything about open records requests. Also, expensive consultants. I know there's 800 positions available in Cobb County. Well, want any ideas? My rate is 0. I'd like to ask you to vote to keep the tax neutral rollback rate. Do not raise our taxes. And be happy in the election year coming up to tell my friends a positive contribution if you would vote no to our taxes. The school board tax, be brave and send it back to them and tell them to fix that, okay? Make the county budget fully transparent. Put every cent of the budget online for all your constituents to see. Show every cent of how last year's budget was spent and put that online. Also, there is only one homestead exemption if they're a landlord, so they just have one, and then that would possibly make the rentings go up. I came down here with $1,000 from the Buckeye State of Ohio. I've had to tighten my expenses. I ask that you tighten the spending, for example, by not hiring expensive consultants, not giving to a lot of charities. I just found that out. I thank you for all that you are doing. And in summary, because I know I just got 3 minutes, it looks like the property taxes will be going up by 18.02%. So get it back to the school board. Say, no, you don't have to accept that. And do not increase our property taxes for us, your constituents, because I thought you guys got enough money from us for the Braves. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all you've done.
Thank you. We'll take our next speaker.
Commissioner Cupid, other fellow commissioners, I appreciate your time. My name is David Holmes. I'm 29 years resident of Cobb County, 28 years as a realtor. I've helped about 1,400 families buy or sell their homes. I own about 43, 44 properties through hard work and determination over my career in real estate, and 20 of which are in your county. I don't have any prepared notes. This comes from what's in here and experience. And I would gladly share that with all of you or each of you independently. Talking about the millage rate, leaving that the same, raising the tax values, 18% one year, 13% year previously, and looking at an example that I saw previously. I love charts and graphs. I love examples because I have an example of one of my properties, 3856 Glen Lake Springs Parkway in Kennesaw. Value went from like 230, 240 to 410. I'll take 375 close this afternoon on that house. So there's a lot of raising our values on people. And what I care about is the homeowners. And I care about my 45 or so tenants and another 15 properties I manage. I read the papers. I get them all. I listen to what y'all have to say. That's why I'm here today. Commissioner Cupid, we talk about affordable housing. And I had a discussion with Helen Gorham years ago about raising taxes. And her response to me was not at all businesslike. Well, if your cost goes up, you don't have to pass it along. The county does that. Businesses do that. That's how a business operates. And again, we go back to affordable housing, and I get the millage rate. But if we raise the value of the properties, the millage rate can stay the same, and we get more money, and we spend more money. And when you talk about affordable housing, please stop and think about raising taxes one way or the other. The millage, the property values, all my properties as an investor get looked at every year and get raised. So the good folks that come here, which is 1/3 approximately of people, I have to raise the rent a minimum of $100 every year, not counting repairs and that going up. So I'd be really happy to talk with any one of you or all of you with somebody that has experience, that manages 95 houses, that's been a RE/MAX agent since '99 and an agent since 27 years. I have a lot to say. I know I have 3 minutes here, but there's a lot of factors in here, and I know you're all smart. But if you want to keep affordable housing, don't double home values. I don't know if our tax commissioners here, don't double the home values in a year. Because I can afford it and pass it along, but the person on a fixed income can't. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Daniel Larkin, Meadowbrook. It's nice to hear that realtor saying that. I'm very concerned about the least vulnerable members of our community, and that's the renters. That you just heard it from a man who owns a lot of homes through his own hard work. He's going to have to pass the increases on. And I keep hearing about affordable housing, as he said, but if you moved here from somewhere else and watched what was going on, you wouldn't think that anyone cared about affordable housing. What I see is a shell game with 3 shells, and there's a P under it, and you're moving it around going, well, wow, the school board, wow, those guys went up. Boy, Commissioner Burrell, I'm normally a big fan, but that was a big sidestep that you did there. You just said, I just want to clarify, we didn't have anything to do with the school increase. No, we didn't. Thank you. Well, yeah, but you're going to approve their budget, so yes, you did. And what's going to happen is this is the shell game. The property values went up, and the commissioners are going, oh my, we didn't have anything to do with look at this, our millage rate is the same, and you might even go down a token bit, knowing full well that we're here right now because Georgia law states that you have to have hearings before a tax increase. And the property taxes went way up, and if you don't act, you're going to cause a de facto, and that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to ram it through, and we see it. What can I do? I come up here and talk for the people. But it's ironic that the people talking about affordable housing are driving houses rents. A 1962 ranch, 1,000, 1,200 square feet in my neighborhood, rents for $2,200, 3-bedroom, 1-bath, and you're not even done with your increases yet. So, and that's going to hurt the tenants even more than the owners because the tenants don't get the homestead exemption. Thank you.
We'll take our next speaker.
Good morning again, Christine Rosman. This is, I agree with the previous speakers, and most commissioner meetings, we have people that come up and say, I can't live in Cobb County anymore because it is so expensive. And it's not just apartments, it's houses. People that make investments, real estate investments, out of their own hard work and hard-earned money, they don't do it for any other reason. I mean, it might be a hobby and they enjoy it, but it's for income. It's to take personal responsibility for their income. And as all these assessments keep going up, they have no other choice than to raise the cost. It's not hurting somebody that makes a lot of money, but somebody that doesn't make a lot of money, someone on a fixed income, an elderly person, someone disabled person, they have a fixed income. They are the ones that are getting impacted. There are other people that it's like, oh gosh, it went up another couple $1,000. It's not going to affect them. But the person that it is affecting is the person that you, as a board, should have your priorities to protect. And I hope that you consider lowering the millage rate so that we don't create more hardship for our Cobb County residents. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take our next speaker.
Hello, my name is Tracy Stevenson. I've sent all of you folks emails, and you've misgendered me in your replies. I'm making a joke.
Tracy.
I'm making a joke. At the end of the day, I'm here not for me, but for my kids and my grandkids, the people going forward from here. They're the ones that can afford this least. You know, I'm old. I get the exemption for being old, and that's okay. But it's disingenuous for us to say that we really don't have a dog in this fight with the school board, because we do. You do. We all do, because we approve their budgets in this chamber. If you look at the national averages, I may misquote the statistics slightly, but I believe Cobb is about $11,700 a student. A lot of people want school choice right now, and they want that money to follow the student. That may be because they don't think they're getting the best education. We've proven nationally, I believe it's Utah has an expenditure of a little over $7,000 per student. They're the lowest in the country and have one of the highest performance rates. The state of New York has about $24,000 per student, has one of the worst performance rates. So money following the child would make some sense because competition is good. So when we look at our whole budget and all the balls that are in this budget, sometimes maybe we need to sacrifice some programs that people are passionate about. Or maybe we need to find fraud and waste. Maybe we need to tighten our belt and let's do more with less rather than always wanting more and getting less. That's really all I have to say. Thank you.
We'll take our next speaker.
Hill Wright. I heard a story about finding crack cocaine at the White House. That made me think of Cobb County. In Cobb County, we have our own version of cocaine, Cobb cocaine. Cobb cocaine is the people's money. Now, once a year, we get a little note from Cobb County that says Cobb County wants even more cocaine. Then we're told that it's the same amount of coke as last year, and always wonder what they're smoking down at the county that they think we can't tell it's more. Then it gets really confusing. The tax assessor says, "The devil, you know, that old state of Georgia made me do it. I have no choice. I have to do what Georgia tells me and reassess your value." Never mind, OCGA 48-5.299C clearly states that the devil gives you permission not to do an assessment for 2 years after the value is reduced from an appeal. But there seems to be a pattern of when it would help the citizens, oh, well, the devil made me do it. But when it helps the county, forget the devil. It's home rule. Now, this annual event would be funny as finding cocaine in the White House if it were not hurting the citizens of this county. But taxing housing more and more is making housing less affordable. Rents went up last year after citizens begged Chairwoman and Cupid not to increase taxes. People could not find affordable rent after it did. Now, even more people will be put on the street this year. Senior citizens on a fixed income have no choice between food and medicine or leaving Cobb. It's drug habit. Young families starting out struggling to own a home can't keep up with the increase in their mortgage payment. When the higher taxes are added in, they get hit with an unexpected mortgage bill. Now, they say we may have to leave Cobb County's drug habit too. When they come and beg you to moderate your drug habit, your answer to them is, what would you have Cobb County sacrifice? How dare you have Cobb County sacrifice? After all, you're like drug addicts clinging to Cobb cocaine. So on July 25th, you will decide whether to snort or not to snort.
We'll take our next speaker.
Grateful day. My name is Quantina Scott. I would like to talk about a particular group of people who are receiving taxation exemptions in the county, but also receiving it on the federal and state level as well. This is the low-income tax properties and investors. They get special credits from each level, state, federal, and county. And the county has, in some ways, failed to come up with policies to protect those groups of people that live at those places. The trickle down is that it impacts people, businesses, for some small business owners, is greatly impacting the whole community because the property values are going up and are appreciating, but they are getting exemptions. As a taxpayer, I am highly upset because they are evicting people in a large number, and it's affecting the small business owners on a great scale. You know, people are mad because they have to wait in long lines at a fast food places. A lot of businesses are having to close down because they don't have workers, and the workers come from these low-income tax properties. But they are getting exemptions, and there is no accountability at holding these people who are receiving exemptions. Today we have a large number of people who are paying taxes on a property that they own. But these companies and investors, they don't have to pay taxes. They get tax credits. And then they keep turning over these properties over and over again and making large profits off of them. We're talking about millions of dollars. But they are not having to pay any money to the county. And the county holds the strongest power dealing with the state and the federal. It comes from the county. And some policies need to be put in place to hold these people accountable because it's impacting the whole community. So I just, as far as taxes is concerned, because they don't have to pay it, policies just need to be put in place to hold them accountable, to hopefully better the community and strengthen the community so that people can have workers, essential workers, that can afford housing. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
John Frank Sanders Jr., Chairman, Councilwomen. I got out of the Navy. My wife and I moved to Cobb County in 1982. I live in the house I live in now, we bought in 1997. Cobb County's been a wonderful county to live in and raise our children. We've made so many friends, it's now our home. But I just can't believe in the current economic environment, we're debating raising our property taxes and not lowering them. The cost of groceries goes up. The cost of gasoline goes up. The cost of housing goes up. Interest rates are going up. And now you want to increase our property taxes. My property value's up, but I don't get the benefit from that. I'm going to live in that house until they drag me out. So that does me no benefit. Yet I have to pay more for that house in addition to all the other expenses I have to pay that are going up. So I'm very disappointed that you all are not trying to save us money instead of costing us money. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take our next speaker. Yes, sir.
Good morning, Board of Commissioners. My name is David Corona-Witter. I thank you for the opportunity. I just wanted to say that I'm a lifelong resident of Cobb County. I grew up here, and I lived in California. I lived in Denver. I came back here because this is such a great place to be, because it's accessible. Bought my first home here. This is the first place I've owned property, and it was simply because of Cobb's opportunity, Cobb's attraction of low taxes. I too am also a realtor, and I have spent a number of years in the business, not like the former gentleman, but I can tell you that one of my biggest selling points to clients is Cobb's affordability, low taxes. I can't say that anymore, unfortunately. And I've seen many clients of mine have to choose to live in places that they prefer not to, simply because of the tax burden and the increasing values. And I'm a single father, well, recently married within the past month, but I've spent a good number of years as a single father. And I live well below my means, and I'm very responsible, no debt, and I do that because that's the right thing to do. I tighten my budget when I have to. I make sacrifices when I have to. And this year, I've seen my property tax go up 28.5%. I think other people are experiencing increases even more than that, close to 40%. And I've also seen my homeowner's insurance rise at around 20% every year as well. So Cobb County is slowly becoming less and less affordable, unfortunately. And I do know that it being in the realtor business that the values have gone up. They have gone up because there's a shortage of inventory. But I think that's a culmination of many problems nationally. But my question is, with these inflated values, when they come back down, what will happen? Will we be rebated? Will the property tax rate drop? Will the spending drop? And I guess I will just close with, all of us out here who pay the bills make sacrifices in order to pay our bills. And I just would love to see the county, I'd love to see them make a sacrifice as well, like we do every day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Lori Sturgis. I wasn't intending to speak, but I just have one element that hasn't been brought up. those of us who have lived here for a long time, and I moved to Cobb County in 1990, raised our children here, loved the schools, loved the results of the schools that my children have succeeded in adulthood. They have children, but none of them, and I'd love to have a survey of how many people have children who would have loved to live in Cobb County, but because of their income and what's happened in Cobb County's values, they can't afford to live here, so they're living in Gwinnett. And Gwinnett's exploding in every direction, and they have all the services and all the fabulous parks and everything else, and I'd hate to see that constant migration out of Cobb into Gwinnett or Forsyth or any of the other surrounding counties simply because people didn't tighten their belts and watch their budget. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I see you. Bill, I'm sorry, we have 2 additional speakers walking up behind you. Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Milton Castillo. I have lived in Cobb County since 1980, and my kids have gone to school, graduated a long time ago. The reason why I'm here is because I was surprised when I looked at the recent appraisal of my home. It went up by 50.2%. I'm an engineer, so I know about numbers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Craig Harfoot. I built a house. I bought a lot in '89. It was a down year. You could buy lots. I built a house. It took a while to finish it in the early '90s. But the thing was, I built it for like $106,000. First assessment was $180,000, and that's what got me into politics the first time, just that. But what's been going on, and they didn't mention that COVID money and printing money and people sitting at home, that's why you got this windfall, everybody moving around trying to jump in. Of course, Cobb had people come from California, as did Florida, and they come from the Northeast. And higher priced properties come into lower priced properties. Higher taxes to lower taxes. But yeah, it's an aberration that we would have this tax digest, but it's Fed induced. So keeping the money cheap and all that is how you got there. And all this time, I've never seen anybody actually roll back the millage rate, as the law says, to make it where you have no net increase. You're within the law of Georgia to do that. And what I would like to say is, you know, I keep seeing we can't fill positions. You can't get employees, police. Well, the thing is, it's not money that I was talking to a young officer with Cobb. His motivation to work is not the money. It's that's what he wants to do. And it's true for a lot of things. And we're in a global recession. It just hasn't hit the United States. And like I said, my first job, I went to the state of Georgia, took a merit test so that I could have some stable income around early 70s. And you're going to see that in the future. You can tighten your budget, and people will come and take the jobs because there won't be any, especially when AI hits the fan. And they're losing tellers and, you know, service people. And that's what you're going to hire anyway, service people. So it wouldn't hurt you to do this. And this is the time to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers for this public hearing? Okay, Bill?
Thank you, Chairwoman. I just wanted to clarify a couple points. One of the items that we're talking about is when we do look across the metro area, this is counties, the population is above 700,000, similar to Cobb County. Cobb County's millage rate is 11.45 in total. That includes everything. Our sales tax rate is 6. And as a comparison, I'm going to walk through some of the others. Fulton County, 13.446 millage rate. Sales tax, 7.75. Gwinnett County, millage rate, 14.71. Sales tax, 6. City of Atlanta, 19.47. And then DeKalb County, 20.81 with a sales tax of 8. So as a comparison through the metro area, Cobb County by far has the lowest millage rate and tied for the lowest sales tax rate.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Bill before we move on to our next public hearing? Yes, Commissioner Gambrill.
Bill, just some clarifications. In the start of your presentation, you said that 38% of the residential digest, and it used to be 25, collected the homestead?
Yes, the exemptions are 38%. Actually, I'm going to go to that slide real quick. So yes, that is correct. So what I'm looking at here is that 14, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the, what did I calculate here? Sorry, let me pull that up for you. So yes, what I'm looking at is the 14.9 negative bottom number there that you see under the exemptions M&O versus the residential real property at the very top.
Okay, so you're comparing 22 to 23. And what kind of struck me with your comment is we know that...
I'm sorry, Commissioner. I'm looking at the 14 million for 23 versus the 39.4 million at the very top of 23. So I'm looking at that exemption as a comparison because, again, homestead is the biggest exemption we have. So as looking across the board, we don't want to compare it against the total digest because businesses and rental properties and things of that nature would not qualify. But just as the closest comparison, the exemptions there of 14.9 versus the 39 at the very top of that. And then what we did is we did a look back to 2014 to do a similar comparison, and that's where we came up with the 25. So we can see, and it's simply based on that. It's like if you owned your property back in 2014 and you had your homestead exemption that year, and that value has increased every year or sporadically until 2023, that exemption has grown. So is the residential, but that is part of that offset is if you have that homestead exemption, and one of the gentlemen that spoke earlier is, to his point, is absolutely correct. If you own rental properties, they're not eligible for that. Only your primary residence is eligible for the homestead exemption.
Right, and that's where I was kind of going because I found it interesting when we came out with the 2040 comp plan that the number of rentals in the district, and specifically my district, had jumped up into 30, almost 40%. So when you're saying that, it was 25 to 38%, knowing that this big buying that has now driven all of our home prices to being unaffordable,
yes,
it was a lot of corporations buying the homes, so therefore those corporations should not be getting the homestead exemption. So that's why
yes,
your 25 to 38% wasn't making sense to me, knowing the other numbers behind it.
Yeah, and Commissioner, your point is exactly right. As those properties, residential properties, are purchased by a company who then begins to rent those, they still stay in the residential classification, and they do drive some of the property values. But so do other sales in the district. Whether it's if I sell my house today or somebody else sells their house today to another single-family resident owner, that would also drive the sales and is factored in as part of the assessments.
Right, but those homes that are bought by corporations or, we have a couple people here that are investors, they only get that homestead exemption on their first property, not the number of properties thereafter. Therefore, they're taxed at the whole value that is assessed. They do not get
That is absolutely correct. Only your primary residence is eligible for the homestead exemption. Any other properties that you own would not be eligible for that.
Right. one of the things, and you just sat and gave us the different millage rates for Cobb, Fulton, Gwinnett, Atlanta, and DeKalb, but we never talk about the value of the mill.
Sure.
Because, you know, when you sit here and you give these percentages, you're making the assumption that the value is the same.
Sure.
I used to have a chart of what Cobb's mill value was back in 2018, but I couldn't find it. But what is the value of Cobb County's mill? And then if we're going to sit here and compare other counties,
Yes.
I want to know what their millage rate is as well, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but the mill is based on our assessments that we put on the homes. So
Yes.
Cobb County's millage rate is lower because our assessed value, which creates the mill, is higher.
So that is correct. Your value that you generate from taxes. So I mean, that's one of the things we talk about, and a lot of the comments today are absolutely correct. We will collect more property taxes in '23 than we did in '24. We're electing to leave the millage rate the same because of increasing costs of a variety of areas that we covered during the budget presentation. And this millage rate that we're looking at for '23 is the basis for '24. So, but as we look at that, and to your question, and I actually have the 2018 millage rate, it was about 31 million in 2018, and we are at 42 million in 2023. So that is your change of the value of the mill. But then we also have to look at what does the millage rate pay for? So, and think about the things that we talked about during the budget presentation of these are things we've added, and you have to pay for that in some fashion. And that is how we calculate the millage rate that we need, is based on what is the things that we've already approved and what are the desired outcomes for '24, and set the millage rate accordingly. Yes. Any other questions? Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. And then I'll address, there was a comment that was also brought up around low-income residential tax exemptions, those that offer rental properties to low-income residents. Is that something that we also track or monitor or look at?
So I'm gonna,
from a cost of living standpoint?
my expert is coming to help me answer that question.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
There is Georgia law that states that if there are certain properties that are in partnership with jurisdictional authorities, Marietta Housing Authority and things like that, then those properties are owned by authority and they are exempt. I'd be happy to get with the speaker and find out what properties they're in reference to. There is some commercial properties that are low-income housing tax credits. They get low-income housing tax credit apartments. They are not exempt, but we value the credits and look at how much credit they're getting from the federal government, and that's part of the valuation, but they are not fully exempt. So it depends on the ownership of the property, and I would be happy to get with the speaker and find out what they're in reference to, but no.
Okay.
Properties that are homes that might be getting a reduced rent of some type, those are not part of a homesteaded property. You have to be the owner and reside in the house to get the homestead.
Right, understood on the homestead exemption. I was just curious if we're also tracking the exemptions that they receive for other taxes that they might eventually pass on to those residents, to see if those were some contemplations made in the law as well, because I know there's been a lot of concern about renters and their actual monthly payment going up because of costs that get rolled down. So I'm just curious if that's something that we're tracking from a cost of living perspective. And then certainly to the comparison piece, which is a little bit separate from the assessment piece, is I wanted to know, comparing the budgets of those other jurisdictions as well. To Commissioner Gambrell's point, the value of the mill, but we also have to look at what comprises that mill value as well. Thank you, Stephen, though.
Absolutely. So we can put together a comparison slide for you, and comparing budgets is like apples and oranges.
Correct.
Because everybody offers different services and different variations of that service. But it is a good metric if you just want to look in totality, what does it comprise of? We can definitely pull that together for the metro area and put that in perspective. Now, again, also talking about different sizes, different areas of service area and populations, but these are going to be the ones that we use of the 700,000 plus residents that we like to use as that. But I can definitely put that together and share that with the board.
Okay.
Happy to.
Thank you. And that, I know we have a lot of data that we're pulling together to prepare for our town hall, so our community huddle.
Yeah.
But thank you.
And Commissioners, if I could just add one more clarifying point, because this is something that we did discuss briefly at the beginning during the presentation, is regarding the Board of Education's millage. So as a separate entity, their board has the authority of setting their millage. Our board legally has to ratify that millage rate. So you do not have input in that. You just, as taxing authority, have to ratify their millage rate that they set. So you do not get to weigh in and have input into their decision. Simply, it comes before you as the taxing authority, because the tax commissioner does have to collect and issue those.
Thank you. Go ahead.
And I don't know, Bill, if you can help, but let's just play devil's advocate here.
Sure.
To answer it, because I think this is the question for the community. So what happens if the Board of Commissioners does not approve the school board's tax rate?
Well, the Constitution says you shall approve it. They're merely coming to you as a taxing authority. And I can go through a list of cases here that other counties have tried to do that, and all of them have failed by the appellate courts. Board of Commissioners versus Newton County tried it. Board of Commissioners and also tried it in the Court of Appeals, so that the Board of Education had the legal right to establish its own millage rate, and that the Board of Commissioners were only able to then rectify or certify what the amount that they set. That's the only authority that you have. It doesn't speak into the budget at all.
Yeah. So, and
Thank you.
to that point, we have no input, no approval of the budget as itself. Simply the millage as taxing authority.
Just point of clarity on budget versus millage. I think the community is also interested in our ability on the millage, not specifically, I know it was stated budget during their comment, but they are looking at the millage and the repercussions for not ratifying the millage.
Correct, and that's what I spoke to,
Right.
was the millage. Yeah,
Right.
The budget wasn't even presented to the board, and your budget's not even being
Right.
approved by the board here.
Right. I just want to provide that clarity.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you. And since I brought it up in the last question section, that was going to be my question too. What happened if we sent it back? Because there were comments. But my point is, they're a separate entity. You elect them, you elect us. We don't have a say really, except that we do have to ratify it by state law. And I wouldn't want them ratifying, or I mean, not ratifying, but setting our millage and budget if the tables were turned. So my only point that I would like to add, other than what's been discussed with the school board, is, well, first of all, they did reduce their millage. They have been at 18.9 as long as I've been here. And they are allowed to go to 20 mills per state law. And this year, I think they reduced it by 0.2 mills, which I'm not sure what the equivalent amount is to that. I think 1 mill in our standards is $40 million. Is that correct, Bill?
1 mill is 42 million.
42 million, okay.
Now,
So,
obviously, they have different exemptions, so their value that doesn't
Yeah.
mean it's the same value. Okay.
I'd just like to point out that this is a biennial budget. Last year, in the '22 budget, we added new positions and a lot of additional things that have to carry over and be sustainable in this budget. But a biennial budget is mainly a cut and paste of the previous year budget. And there are some things that are in this budget that carry over, but that we have to do to sustain moving forward. But there is an opportunity also to not increase all the way to what we are.
Just had a question for Stephen, if he could. Stephen, if you wouldn't mind sharing the process with us a little bit with the assessment process. There were several real estate professionals that spoke earlier today with respect to what they've seen in the market over the years. And I also share as a real estate broker, what I've witnessed is a decline in the market since 2007. And that's when we had foreclosures, we had pre-foreclosures, we had the introductions of the REITs or the investment companies that came in and started purchasing homes in bulk. So there are several variables and factors to consider when we talk about the increase of property values. But if you would, just take a few minutes and talk to us a little bit about the assessment process.
Sure. The assessment process is all based on the status of the property as of January 1st. So in order to arrive at the value on January 1st, we look at the activity that occurred in the calendar year prior to January 1. Sometimes we have to go back even further than that. But generally speaking, we're looking at the sales activity that occurred in the prior year. We take those sales that occur in your general valuation area, and then we use that as a basis for arriving at the value on each individual property. Because we're asking ourselves, what would this home sell for on January 1st if we were to put a for sale sign on it? That's the goal. And so we take a look at the sales. That gets us into the arena of what the home is worth. And of course, we have a lot of data in our database in regards to the characteristics of the homes. We keep up with that. How many square feet is the home? Bedroom count, bath count, size, year built, quality of construction. All of those things factor into the valuation. All the questions that we would all ask ourselves if we were going to buy a property. What is it about this home that I like? What is it that makes it desirable? Those are things that we're looking at. Additionally, we look at things that might be detracting from the value, and that's part of our consideration as well. Condition, location, all of those things factor in. That's how we arrive at our value. We perform statistical measures to determine if our values are accurate, and those are reviewed by not only the Georgia Department of Audits and Accounts each year, but also the Department of Revenue reviews our digest annually. They review our digest every 3 years to make sure that we are doing our job, that we're keeping up with values. Our values are accurate and appropriate. Yes, taxpayers know their home better than we do. They live there. That's why we have a process of open engagement where they can notify us of issues with their property and, if need be, go through the appeal process. I hope that answers your question.
It did. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Are there any additional questions, commissioners? I'm hesitant to share much during this hearing, but I just want to make an observation that may be plain to a number of you, is that our tax policy does favor home ownership. And that drives the exemptions around those who own and live in a home here in Cobb County. Our tax policies do not favor those who are landlords and own homes and rent it to other Cobb Countians. My observation is that there are a lot of Cobb Countians who do want to own a home, but the inventory of homes to own continues to diminish, and those who would typically look for homes to purchase seem to be limited to now having to rent. And that is driving up costs for those who traditionally rent, because those who traditionally would be able to afford a home now are going into rental properties, and those who traditionally rent are getting eked out of those that would actually prefer to purchase a home. I think this is a layered issue. When we talk about housing affordability, that I really would love to have a sit-down conversation with a number of you who are asking for us to consider home affordability. I would love to, and I see your hand there. I really would, and I would ask my assistant if you can see the gentleman there, because I'm limited to share because I want to understand the tax policy side of this more as I speak to landlords, and I have landlords, friends who are landlords, family members who are landlords. Because I'm wondering who our sensitivity is balanced towards and how this is contributing to this. I certainly feel for those who have a lot of rental properties and are seeing those rates go up. I think there's a lot of pressure on everyone, and there's pressure not just here when we make a budget decision, but also when we make zoning decisions. And we look at other ways to encourage affordability, which is not met with the amount of support that I'm hearing for affordability today. These are not separate matters, and if we truly want to have a robust discussion around this, I know it's going to have to evolve beyond just time for us to set the millage in our budget. That this is truly a complex issue that isn't going anywhere, and not addressing this is not going to make this issue go away. It's just going to make it become worse. So for those that support our county being a county supportive of home ownership, I think our tax model reflects that. And I'm hoping, there's been an occasional few that I've met when I've had public meetings who do not have a homestead exemption, which is by far one of the greatest tools that we have in our taxing policy to keep our tax rate affordable. I encourage you, if you're listening to us and you're wondering what this homestead exemption is and you don't have it, please reach out to our tax commissioner's office and make sure that that is something you take full advantage of, because you can be one of the many of us who love living here and enjoy the fact that the same tax rate that we've paid in our general fund 5, 10, 20 years ago is the same that we'll pay today because of what Cobb County does offer. For our renters, Ms. Scott, it was a pleasure to see you. I haven't seen you in some time. We are limited in our ability to specifically address tax policy around rental properties. In fact, we're limited in our ability just to even regulate rental properties, period, to the point where I've been told that we're unable to even list what rental properties are. That really is a matter to address at a state and federal level. So I did hear the comment about you feeling like your local government fails the renter when it comes to that tax policy. That tax policy is addressed beyond our level of authority. But I do believe this is a layered issue, which is why you hear the state now even talking about affordability. So those are all my comments for today. I know we do have another public hearing to follow this one. And commissioners, I would just ask that we go to our next agenda item. And this is regarding the FY24 proposed budget.
Well, thank you,
And Bill, you
Chairwoman.
can go
Commissioners,
ahead.
you're stuck with me for one more public hearing. We did present the budget on June 27th. A copy of the presentation is on the finance website under publications, and a copy of the budget, if you go to the Cobb County General landing page, there's a tile there with the legal notices, the millage rate notices, as well as copy of the detailed budget as handouts as well. So all of that is available online. So I do encourage our citizens to take a look at those. We always want to make sure that those are available to everybody. This is our first public hearing regarding the budget, And then we will have budget adoption on the 25th. So I know we talked about some different dates for millage, so budget is a little bit different. It doesn't require as many public hearings. I know a lot of those times those issues definitely get blended because they are very closely tied together. So with that, if the chair or commissioners have any questions, I'd be happy to take them now or at the conclusion of the public hearing.
Why don't we wait until the end of the public hearing, Bill?
Thank you.
Thank you. Similar to the 2 prior public hearings, this public hearing will be open for anyone that wants to address this topic, and this topic only, and that is of the FY24 proposed budget. We'll take an unlimited number of speakers who will have a maximum of 3 minutes to address the board. And Sarah, since you're up, you can go ahead and start us off.
My name's Craig Harfoot. I think you should be putting this one off till later, because it's almost like you're saying you're not going to do nothing about the millage rate if you start doing the budget already. Because it says we need X amount of money, and you don't know what, if you rolled back the millage rate, what that amount of money would be. So why would you be adopting a budget? I mean, it needs to come later. And it goes to affordability. You talk about rentals, and you got, you know, they pass through the taxes to the renters. Low income, they don't care. They don't care about any of that. It gets passed through. You tax them, it gets passed through. And all the other people were talking about affordability with their current budgets. And the deal breakers are if they raise the escrow rates on, and most of the houses are mortgaged. Not mine, probably not a few other people's. But it basically blows the budget. And the banks basically don't care because they foreclose, they sell them again. Happened in 2008, only it took, I mean, they didn't even unwind them by 2015. 7 years is usually the rule for doing that. And so the Fed kept it down to nothing, and then they printed all the COVID money. This is truly a windfall. Please table the budget. Have the public hearings after you have a real discussion about the millage rate. Otherwise, you know, you're just steamrolling this. And I know, I'll save it for the other, but this is, I'm not up here talking for me. And I do have a daughter that wants to buy a house, like the other lady that was here. And they can't afford it. I mean, they just can't. And you know, and I know you can't afford it on a welfare check. And they're making over 100. You can't buy. And so, I mean, yeah, I want to have that conversation. I did work in public assistance. I saw budgets for housing in the 70s. We've blown that out of the water. When they established the property tax and the income tax back after the Federal Reserve was started, the exemption, nobody in middle class or lower that owned a house paid property tax. The exemption
Mr. Harfoot,
wiped it off.
Mr. Harfoot, your 3 minutes is up.
Yeah, right. Here we are again, trying to talk about the budget, but where was it, you know? Where was it a month or two ago when we could have been looking at it and trying to understand and having conversations about it? And now what I'm hearing about it is it almost feels like I'm talking to a used car salesman that's trying to keep things from me, trying to keep me from knowing really what's under the hood at all. And the budget ought to be transparent. It ought to clearly show what the money's going for. It ought to be able to go down through the line items and see. And, you know, it should be something the average citizen can look up at that screen and say, okay, I can see what we're doing. And then it should be something that justifies, you know, why you're taking more and more from us each year and what we're getting from it. All I'm hearing is a lot of excuses to try to justify it, but I'm not hearing the real numbers, the real things to justify it. And I'm really just amazed in this whole process. Thank you.
We'll take our next speaker.
Hi, I'm still Kathy Slough, still the vegetarian. I don't have children. I have a four-legged rescue dachshund, but the budget, I come from a legal background of 30 years, so I'm pretty good with detail, but that's not enough information on the budget. It seems like it's the last minute. We're here because we care. We're here because I'm speaking, I'm on a fixed income, I'm 60 plus, so I do watch my money with my own budget. And that nonsense about not being able to send it back to the school board is nonsense. You can do that. You have the power to do that. I'm here for my neighbor that's probably living on $1,000 a month in her 90s. She can't afford this. I'm here for my other neighbor that's young, say in their 30s, trying to do the right thing, live the American dream, working 1 or 2 jobs. So I'm here for everyone in Cobb County. The budget should have been released before. We should see line by line like I do my own personal budget. So I ask for no property tax increase. I ask for more transparency on the budget, and I believe you have that in you. Thanks for what you've done for us in Cobb County so far. Those are my requests. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We'll take our next speaker. Not seeing any bill, you can approach. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Bill? Okay. Thank you, Bill. When's the next hearing with respect to the millage, I believe?
The millage hearing will be on July 18th at 6:30. And that will be millage only. And then on July 25th, there will be a public hearing for the millage and budget adoption as well as millage adoption.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for those that participated in our public hearings today. We are now moving to another speaking portion of our meeting, which is our public comment. Bill.
And the first public speaker is Daniel Larkin.
Matter of fact, I'm sorry, Daniel. I need to take a 5-minute break before we move on. Why don't we come back at 11:05? Yeah, thank you. do it still? I see him now, but I didn't see him before. He didn't send it to me before. And I need to get out of here. I'm gonna get. Okay. Yeah, it's only about. I don't see no more than. Just dropping stuff off. I'll see if there's some upstairs. Okay. I can go get some more. We're gonna have people beyond the list, so there's some people. Hey, Darren. Good to see you. Hello and welcome back to our Board of Commissioners meeting. We are now at our public comment, and Bill, I'll turn things over to you.
Thank you, Chairwoman. As the board provides the podium for public comment, it's appropriate to review the related meeting rules. Although there's been had a number of public hearings here, so everybody understand these, but please state your name and if you're speaking on behalf of an organization. All comments should be addressed through the chair. Public comment is not a dialogue with the board, but an opportunity for the speakers to provide their comments to the board. The comments should not be impertinent, derogatory, or offensive, slanderous. To that end, the board encourages, regardless of the topic, for the audience to be respectful and courteous to the speakers. We encourage everyone attending this meeting should give others the right to both listen and be heard by treating each other with civility. Statements made during the public comments portion do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the board or the administration of Cobb County government. And there is a timer on the podium to keep track of your 5 minutes. Daniel Larkin is the first speaker.
Thank you. I have two things to bring up, but one quick thing before I do that. It seems like the county professionals, like the county attorney and Mr. Bill, the finance guy, they're being used against us almost as rebuttal witnesses, in as much as that we'll say something, and then if you disagree with what we say, that you can call for clarification. If you're going to call for clarification, why don't you do it on both sides of the question? And so Mr. Bill comes up here and says, yeah, look, Gwinnett and all these other counties, we're less than them. So I thought the county, I thought it was expect the best was the county motto, not, well, we're not dog food, we're like Hamburg, we're like 27%. We're not ground chuck, we're definitely not a steak. I just wanted to make that point. So I'm an amateur musician and musicologist, and in 1974, I specialize in Caribbean music and soul. In 1974, Jamaica was in the same situation that we're in here. High inflation, unemployment, and it affected women and urban youth the hardest. That's a fact. It's in Jamaica. I'm going to read a few lines here from Toots Hebert, and the song is called Time Tough. It's in Jamaican patois, but it's not hard to understand. Early in the morning, oh mercy, it's just the same situation. Deep in the landlord comes a knocking up on my door. He's a knocking up on my door. I've got $400 month rent to pay, and I can't find $1. Let me tell you, time tough. Everything is going out of sight. So hard, so hard. Time tough. Everything is going higher and higher. That's Toots Hebert, Toots and the Maytals. All right, so I wrote this. This is called For the Most Vulnerable Members in Our Community. We're all watching the cost of living rise. This is not a debatable fact, particularly the cost of housing. I am very concerned about the most vulnerable members in our community, the elderly, people of color, single moms. Last commission meeting I attended, a mom, babe in arms, was pleading to the board for eviction assistance. There is no debating that the cost of housing is way up and shows no sign of letting up. People like myself moved here to Cobb County for a better life because of high housing prices and high property taxes. Let's put aside whether you're on the red team or the blue team. Can we reflect on the lady getting evicted with her baby? When fees, property taxes, and costs associated with excess government spending are increased, the most vulnerable members in our community feel it the most. When property taxes are raised, the landlords who are in the business of renting homes and apartments will pass the increased taxes directly to the tenants the minute the lease is up for renewal. No, it's probably not this week, but know full well your rent or mortgage is going up a lot. We already are feeling the cost of living squeeze us. How many kids won't get to play soccer, football, or play a school band instrument due to the obsession with huge spending? On a school civic center, I think it's like 50 million. Buses that have a very low ridership rate as it is. Why are we throwing big money at a bus program that is not really wanted? Bike lanes that only a small segment of the population will use down Lower Roswell Road. There's a lot of like low-income people on Lower Roswell Road. Yeah, sure. These people are having trouble affording basic needs. Yet the county has lots of expensive programs that they have selected for the people. If you were for the people, you would consider their struggle instead of struggling to ram through your lavish budget. The people can't afford it. You are not spending your money, you're spending the people's money. I would like you to explain to the lady with a baby facing eviction how the new bike lanes and buses are going to help her when she's about to be homeless. Sure, yeah, she could get a bus to a job. What job? The bus to nowhere is what I call it. We're going to spend all this money and we have more immediate needs. Thank you.
The next speaker is Hill Wright.
Hill Wright. Of course, we had a hearing today, and I gave you some specific comments. I'd like to give you some general comments, I guess I have. The process we are following with respect to tax assessments, budgets, and engaging the public is causing a lot of problems for the citizens. We used to get tax assessments in mid-March, then it drifted to April, now it's mid to late May. Then just last week we hear proposed millage rate, now today we're having a hearing. This is very disrespectful to Cobb County citizens, and it's a bad reflection on the leadership of this county. We should get the assessments 30 days before a budget is set, and we should have a proposed budget and proposed millage rate in advance of any hearing. To do anything else is disrespectful to the citizens of Cobb County. Assessments should come before budgets are discussed. The tax assessor should publish the rollback rates required by Georgia law with a tax digest so that every citizen knows what the rate is. When a rate is proposed, the citizens should be told what the proposed rate is and what the percentage from the proposed rate is of the rollback rate difference. That way citizens can actually correctly gauge what you're proposing, and you can't hide behind we didn't raise the rate from last year's rate pretending there is no tax increase. Trust me, you're not hiding anymore. Now the tax assessor gets a bad rap. He can't exactly put the blame for tax increases where it really belongs. He has to sit there and justify his work. He's sort of like the guy that has to run out and draw the fire so the elderly can hide in the shadows and hope nobody notices them. He is the one everyone is so focused on, he has to set the value. If he sets the value at fair market value, then he's done his job correctly. But his setting the value correctly isn't the cause for our annual tax increases. The credit should be where credit is due, with the members of the boards, with every decision to give away taxpayers' dollars and every decision to spend taxpayers' dollars. Don't hide in the shadows like cowards. Take responsibility and don't make excuses or deflect to others. The buck stops with you. One last thing. I was dismayed at how utterly disrespectful the chair was to Commissioner Sheffield at the last meeting. That level of respect is usually reserved for Commissioner Gambrill. But in this case, there is no excuse. They are here to be their constituents' voice, and those voices, whether delivered through them or directly, should not be silenced.
The next speaker is Ms. Scott.
Greetings once again. My name is Quantina Scott. I would like to talk to you guys about a couple of issues that I've had opportunity to analyze and look at, and some things that had impacted my family greatly in the past. Dealing with low income tax properties. There are a lot of them that reside in Cobb County. These companies, it has been said over and over again at several hearings and comments made in reference to some people making them, that there's nothing that the county can do about it, that your hands are tied, there's not much that you can do and whatnot. And I commend you guys for coming up with a policy to hold these property owners, all property owners accountable for dilapidated properties, as well as latent defects and whatnot that impact residents. These companies are actually public if they are receiving any additional taxation from the county, state, or federal on those levels, which gives this body the power to make policies to help defend those class of people who cannot defend themselves, which are the low-income tax residents that reside in these properties. I'm coming to you guys as policy makers to come up with a policy. Why we still have Ms. Richardson here, who can hopefully break any ties with her seat, so that it's not a four-body commission. I ask that you guys sit down and try and come up with some policies. You guys do have a say on what these low-income tax properties can and cannot do, because they are public. They receive taxation, discounts, exemptions on different levels. And if they're receiving those type of things from federal, state, or county governments, that makes them public. They are not a private entity because they have an LLC. They have violated people's rights by not accepting rental assistance. There are a whole bunch of renters that have been displaced because there is no policy that is enforced to help support these people on these levels. The county has failed these people by not coming up with a policy to a certain extent. And I understand, because you guys have a lot of different things that you guys have to look at and whatnot, a lot of rules and regulations, and it's looking at deeds. You have to look at some of these deeds that are recorded at the real estate office, records. And those things are grandfathered into some of these deeds. So in order to find out what policies and what regulations the county can and cannot do, we have to take a look at the deeds, because these are grandfathered in for 15 years. And they can switch hands as much as they want to, but the deed and that instrument still holds key and fundamental to protecting people's rights who are living at these properties. To speak to contracts, when people are going to rental properties, especially low income, some of these people are not educated. They are up against a manager who has been to special training. They are up against a leasing agent who also has special training. A contract such as a lease is weaponized against a person when they go to a court of law. The language is different than what we learned in school. Shall, we, may, those words are different when you go to a court of law. Those people are not educated on how to defend themselves in a court of law. We have family stabilization programs that are in place to help stabilize those families and to provide legal assistance, but the legal assistance is the lack of oversight for those people to receive those legal assistance as well. The county, I would encourage you guys to come up with a way to mitigate some of these evictions, which would be coming up with a good cause to evict. We should have did this at the beginning of the pandemic. a good cause. That would have stopped a lot of evictions, a lot of people from being displaced, just by coming up with a good cause. And that's not asking a lot from the county to do to help families that are of low income. I thank you for your time. You guys have a beautiful day.
The next speaker is Kathy Slaw.
Hi, my name's Kathy Slough. I want to thank you again for your time. I'm here because I want to contribute and be a part of the solution. That's what I did when I was on my board of directors for 14 years, and we all may agree to disagree, but I'm just still requesting if you set the rate at the tax neutral rate, then there is no increase in property tax collected. If the board keeps the rate same as last year, then the tax increase you will see on your assessment will be collected this year and every year after. It looks like you've tentatively adopted a millage rate which will require an increase in property taxes by 18.02%. I've been on both sides. I grew up, we were on food stamps for a time in Ohio. I came down here, I slept on the floor, and I rented for 2 years and then bought my respective condo, and that's my primary residence. I can see both sides. We're here to agree to disagree. I don't want to live anywhere else. I think Cobb has a lot to offer. I use the parks daily, running, cycling. It's my psychiatrist. We have a beautiful Marietta Square, of which I'm also in the city of Marietta. I know that's a separate budget, but from what I'm hearing, we all want to work together, and we're here to express our concerns. I'm asking you to please not raise the taxes. Send it back to the school board. You guys have a lot of power. I think that this should have been discussed in April, May, that area, and not right up against when you want to approve the budget. So that's what I'm asking. Again, thank you for your time. I'm in Commissioner Richardson's district. Whether we agree or not agree, we had 15 minutes of wonderful conversation last night. And you guys don't, I'm from Ohio, so I say you guys, you don't know our concerns unless we share them. So we're all here to share them. You'll probably see me again. And again, I want to be part of the solution, but I want to voice my concerns as well, and those are my concerns. And those of my neighbors, such as a 93-year young woman that's barely able to walk. So you probably won't see her. Thanks for your time. I hope you do the right thing for us. I don't live in a McMansion, okay? I have a little 1,350 square foot condo. Thanks for your time. Thank you. You're welcome.
The next public speaker is Mary Lynn Thomas.
Good morning. I'm here regarding the noise ordinance. It's a small piece of what taxes would support, particularly should the Cobb County Police Department be required to purchase sound power level meters. On June 6th, we had an incident with a neighbor in the city of Marietta, a business. The business installs car audio systems. I did the math. The decibel level at the business would have to have been 132 dBs in order to be the 65 dB that the city of Marietta would consider to be too loud. At 65 dB at my residence. I live about a half-mile straight line distance from this residence. I'm in the county. My neighbors and I have been through the City of Marietta noise ordinance, the Cobb County noise ordinance. I even went back and reviewed the 1972 Noise Act issued by the EPA. We would appreciate it if consideration were given with respect to businesses of this type located near residences such that the two noise ordinances match versus having such disparity between them. I followed up with the City of Marietta Police Department. They said, no, we won't come to your residence because you live in the county. I followed up with the County Police Department. They said, we don't have sound power level meters. The best you can do is get a case number. So with respect to your revision of the noise ordinance, I would advise you to look at both noise ordinances from the city and the county. Thank you.
The next public speaker is Craig Harfoot.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name's Craig Harfoot. To continue with that, you know, our country ran on a system of tariffs when the railroads were in, and it was all about how far and how much, or the value of the goods on the train, how you got taxed. Well, the Iron Navy and universal education bankrupted the United States. And so the Federal Reserve came in. They got the progressive income tax. They got the property tax. The first thing all the millionaires did was incorporate. It wasn't personal. The Fortune 500 were the 500 millionaires that elect presidents to this day. But they immediately did away with all their mansions because they didn't want to pay the taxes. And when they started taxing houses, around that time, a house was $5,000, maybe up some from that. The exemption meant that that wasn't a tax source. The counties basically sent road assessments taxes to residents that lived on roads. I have some from my relatives in Pennsylvania, and that was dirt roads. So this is a little history, but it goes. So over the years, you know, let's just, you know, the first house in Florida on a canal, my parents bought in '57, $15,000. Now that wasn't the cheapest house. And by 2005, somebody from California wanted to buy it, had never improved it, never did anything. I put a roof on it, $400,000. Now, the taxes my parents paid when they bought the house were real low. This is $2 an hour time, people. And the thing was, my mom couldn't afford to be there in 2005. I had to supplement. I had to send them money, like most families have to help their families, right? And when she sold it, she went and bought one in rural Georgia. And she paid too much for it. And I told her so at the time. I said, that it ain't worth that. But because she came from somewhere else and thought she had more money, that is what, it seemed like a deal to her, and that's what's happening here, by the way. You know, people come from California, they sold their house. Oh, this is cheap. But for the people that live here, this is called gentrification, in case you don't know it. It happens no matter what your income. It's gentrification. And suddenly, you reassess because some fool paid too much for their house. And she wrecked the tax base down there, you know, when she did that. But when we sold it just, a couple of years ago, it bought for $140 and it sold for $90. And I mean, and this was before COVID. They came up, I asked the realtor later, I said, did they bring more money in COVID? And he goes, yeah. And the thing is, the Federal Reserve has screwed over poor people, and elderly people. I mean, once you're on a fixed income and inflation hits in food, energy, housing, you're done. You're just done. And it was more doable when they started the food stamp program. Like I said, I saw all the who paid what. And the variation between the poorest neighborhood, $100 a month versus $165 in the suburbs for a one-bedroom apartment with utilities included. But, you know, that $65, that was in, you know, I can't remember the wage, but it was probably three to four. Maybe that's even too high, because my starting check with the state then in Fulton County was $332 every 2 weeks take home. Now I could do that. You can all do that as employees. You got enough money to live, you know, because you have a salary. But once you go to fixed income, or you're on a set amount of money that's based on taxes, this is all downhill. And it's like, you talk about home ownership, but if you have a mortgage, you don't own that house. You just don't. You just own the debt. And when you raise the taxes, you just made it unaffordable.
Chairwoman, that's the last public speaker for the first portion.
Thank you. Do we have any signed up for the second portion, Bill?
Not as of yet.
Okay, thank you. We are now at the consent portion of our meeting. The items on our consent agenda have scrolled on the screen prior to our meeting and will do so following our meeting. The items on the consent agenda are voted on in bank. And just a reminder, Commissioners, that we did add those 2 items from the top of the meeting to this portion of the agenda, which include the alcohol license and also the matter for the police department. So with that, Commissioners, I move that we approve the matters are on our consent agenda and to authorize any needed signatures for those items.
Second.
Yes. Discussion? Go ahead, Commissioner Burrow.
I do not support item number 22.
Okay. Item 22 pertains to approving a contract with Griffin and Strong for the conduct of a disparity study of the county's procurement practices. Okay. Are there any other comments? Commissioner Gambrill.
I do not support agenda item 22.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. Are there any other comments or questions? Call the question.
Chair, if the motion was to, you spoke about the 2 items you added to the consent agenda,
Yes.
but the motion is to approve the consent agenda as revised?
As revised, thank you. I didn't
Okay.
add the as
Okay.
revised portion. Thank you, Bill.
All right.
Appreciate the catch. Thank you. Got it. Okay, thank you. So we still have a motion and a second. Go ahead and call the question. The motion passes 5-0. Okay, we are now to the regular portion of our meeting for our staff members who have bared with us. Thank you for being here. The first item pertains to the Sheriff's Office.
Morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning.
Councilwoman. The purpose of this recommendation is to authorize the use of the HGA CBUI Corporation Purchasing Program contract for the procurement of 2 prisoner transport vans under the 2016 SPLOST program for the Cobb County Sheriff's Office. And the recommendation is the Board of Commissioners authorizes the use of the creative bus sales under HGA CBUI, contract number BT 0121, under creative bus sales for the procurement of 2 prisoner transport vans for the Cobb County Sheriff's Office for an amount not to exceed $276,460, authorized by the corresponding budget transactions, and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. The motion passes 5-0. And good to see you back there, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you, David. Our next agenda item will be from the Transportation Department. In fact, they have a number of them. Hi, Jonathan.
Good morning once again, Chairwoman, Board of Commissioners. Jonathan Nee with the Department of Transportation. The department has 8 items in today's regular agenda. The first item is the department recommends the Board of Commissioners approve change order number 2, final, to the contract with Advanced Sports Construction LLC, which is a savings to the project in the amount of $29,000 or $29,042 for drainage system repairs on Weatherstone Lane, project number B2261. Authorize the corresponding budget transaction and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Richardson.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. The second item is for the department. The department recommends the Board of Commissioners approve change order number 1, final, to project number B2275 to the 2021 countywide unit price contract with Chatfield Contracting Incorporated, a savings to the project in the amount of $50,074.60 for emergency drainage repairs on East Piedmont Road. Authorize the corresponding budget transaction and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Burrow.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Our next item for the department is the department recommends the Board of Commissioners approve change order number 1, final, to the contract with Exceller Construction LLC, a saving to the project in the amount of $42,810.38 for drainage system repairs on Somerset Trace, project number X2289. Authorize the corresponding budget transactions and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Richardson.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Our next item, the department recommends the Board of Commissioners authorize closure of the 2005 Transportation Improvements Program, funded primarily by the 2005 Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax, or SPLOST. Authorize reallocation of fiscal year 2023 expenditures from the 2022 SPLOST Transportation Improvement Program Fund to the 2005 SPLOST Transportation Improvement Program Fund. Authorize the corresponding budget and accounting transactions per the attached list in the agenda, and further authorize additional budget and accounting transactions as needed to close out the 2005 SPLOST Fund 340.
Okay. So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Finally.
Yes.
Finally, this is,
We are closing out our 2005 program. Yes.
thank you.
Did we remember to bring confetti?
Yeah,
We discussed it.
We need a party.
Yes, we'll have candy thrown. Yes, there we go. Yes. Yes, it's good to see this program come to a close. The SPLOST does a great job for us, and this has been an 18-year venture for us to close out the 2005 program, but glad we are finally here. So we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Call the question. The motion passes 4-1 with Commissioner Gamble in opposition. We'll move on to our next agenda item.
Thank you. And I believe the fireworks last week was for this item.
Oh, the fireworks for last week, okay, still linger on for today.
Our next item is the department recommends the Board of Commissioners approve change order number 2, final, to the contract with Deep South Industrial Services Incorporated, an increase to the contract in the amount of $24,179.74 for resurfacing 2022 crack sealing countywide thoroughfares, which is project number X2919. Authorize the corresponding budget transaction and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
Oh, okay, so moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Our next item, the department recommends the Board of Commissioners ratify previous action by the county manager authorizing emergency drainage repairs on Shiloh Drive in response to voids, approve project number B2289 to the 2021 countywide unit price contract with Advanced Sports Construction LLC in an amount not to exceed $189,120 for said repairs, authorize the corresponding budget transaction, and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
Okay, Commissioner Sheffield?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Our next item for the department is the recommendation for the Board of Commissioners ratify previous action by the county manager authorizing emergency repairs to a segment of Circle 75 Parkway in response to a water main failure. Approve a contract with C.W. Matthews Contracting Company Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $424,164.34 for repairs on Circle 75 Parkway roadway restoration. Authorize the corresponding budget transaction, project number W2422. Authorize the corresponding budget transaction and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Richardson?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. And the final and eighth item for the Department of Transportation tonight, the department recommends to approve a Cobb framework agreement with the City of Smyrna for preliminary engineering design of State Route 280 South Cobb Drive improvements, Cobb County project number TR539. Authorize the corresponding budget transactions and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Richardson?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you, Chairwoman
Great
and Board
job
of
today.
Commissioners.
Moving on to our Public Services tab.
Good morning, Chairwoman, Commissioners, Deputy County Manager. We have one item for consideration this morning. Our item is for the Board of Commissioners to authorize a contract with HEC Construction Solutions Incorporated to provide construction services for interior renovations to the Violet F. Stout Park Barn under the 2016 Park Splice Program. We ask the BOC authorize a contract with HEC Construction Solutions in amount not to exceed $473,299. Authorize the corresponding budget transactions and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Sheffield?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay, Chairwoman, Commissioners, Deputy County Manager, Helen Poyer from the library, and we recommend that the Board of Commissioners authorize the application for the capital outlay grant from the Board of Regents, Georgia Public Library Services, in the amount of $2 million toward the expansion and renovation of the South Cobb Regional Library as part of the 2022 SPLOST project. Also authorize the corresponding budget transaction and further authorize the chairwoman or the library director to execute the necessary documents.
All right, so moved. Excuse me, go ahead, Commissioner.
So moved.
Second. Is there any discussion?
No discussion, but just thank you so much. We've been working on this since, I think, the greater part of last year.
2 years.
So I'm really excited to see this moving forward.
And thank you for your
Thank you.
support.
All right, call the question. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Okay, we are now at our support services tab, I believe.
Good morning, Chairwoman,
Hey, good
Commissioners,
morning.
Deputy County Manager, Chris Johnson, Information Services. Our item this morning is to request the Board of Commissioners authorize the purchase of an uninterruptible power supply for the data center disaster recovery site in an amount not to exceed $94,340.87 under the provisions of NCPA contract number 01-97 with ProSys Information Systems 2016 SPLOS Project X0010 to authorize the corresponding budget transactions and further authorize the purchasing director to execute the necessary documents.
All right, so moved as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Chris. I believe that takes us to our second public comment. No speakers are signed up. And we are then now at our Commissioner's public address. Commissioner, you can begin whenever you're ready.
Come join us this Saturday from 9 to 11 a.m. The Cobb County Parks and Natural Resources Management Unit is presenting the annual Youth Fishing Rodeo of 2023. This competition is open to youth ages 3 to 16 years old. The contestant entry fee is $5 and trophies will be awarded for several categories. If you are new to fishing, our park staff will be available to help you teach basics such as baiting a hook, casted reel or pole, and of course removing your fish from the hook. We are also looking for volunteers. You can email Ann Norton at cobbcounty.org or call 770-528-8819. On Thursday, July 20th, the On the Border restaurant in Kennesaw will donate 20% of the value of your dine-in, take-out, and pick-up orders to support a great cause, which is the Cobb Police Athletic League. The restaurant is located at 790 Cobb Place Boulevard in Kennesaw. Cobb Pal asks that you confirm your attendance with the QR code as provided. Summer is here and just in time for the annual National Night Out event. This is a national event to bring the public safety community and the citizens they serve together for an evening of fun. The event will be held at Jim R. Miller Park from 6 to 9 p.m. The Cobb Police Department and Cobb Fire Department will have a wide variety of their equipment on display, including specialty teams such as the SWAT, bomb, K-9, dive team, motors, and medical operations. Food trucks and dessert vendors will be at the park as well. There will also be giant inflatables for the children to enjoy, and the School of Rock will be the main stage throughout the evening. And also, let's continue our conversations at my next meet and greet walk, which will be on Wednesday, July 26th at Lost Mountain Park. We will start at 9:30 a.m. and Lost Mountain Park is located at 4845 Dallas Highway in Powder Springs, and we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Richardson.
Sure thing. So from the office, it's on top of everyone's minds, the budget and the millage. So we have a special community huddle this coming Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Sewell Mill Library at the Black Box Theater for a special in-person community huddle to discuss both of these things. This is an opportunity to learn more about the 2023 budget process, ask questions, and state any comments or concerns. Our CFO, our chief appraiser will both be in attendance, and we may have some other special guests. We'll see. Family Day at the Fishing Rodeo. Our office had a great time connecting with the community at our Family Day event this past Saturday. Thank you to Cobb Parks, Police, Fire, Libraries, and the UGA Extension Office for coming out to the event. It was a great success, and we plan to host more like this in the near future. And certainly appreciate our East Cobb liaison, Kevin Redmond, for adding on that scavenger hunt and some other fun activities as well. It was very well attended. We have some new cabinet members, so we're excited to announce we've added 2 new members. Mr. Bobby Johnson is joining as our STEAM education seat, Ms. Cheatham Delano as the public safety and admin. These new members bring excitement and energy to make positive changes within the D2 community. So you all have heard about the acts of kindness. We are reframing that into community focuses on a monthly basis. So we'll focus on issues that members of our community are really concerned about. So this month it's sustainability. So for the month of July, our office will be focusing on sustainability. It's important that we all do our part. So here are just some facts for you to take home. Plastic bags take about 1,000 years to decompose. Try reusable. Running tap water for 2 minutes equals 3 to 5 gallons of water. 500,000 trees are cut down to produce the Sunday newspaper each week. If we were all to recycle our copy after finishing it, we could save a lot of trees. Some new refrigerators are so energy smart that they use less electricity than a light bulb. And from the community, STEM in July, East Cobb Library. The nonprofit organization Connect for STEM is hosting weekly programs for library patrons between the ages of 6 to 11 years old. Online registration is required and opens 1 week before the event begins. Registration is open to the first 20 individual participants, and they're not required to sign up for or attend each session. So, there you go. Thank you. Concludes my comments.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Burrow.
Shaw Park pickleball courts will be closed for maintenance from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m., July 10th through the 14th this week, and July 17th through the 21st. There will be no admittance during these times, but after 5, you can use the courts. Another 4th of July is in the books. And a special thanks to Deputy County Manager Jimmy Giese, Parks Director Michael Brantley, and the team at Parks and Rec for all their hard work preparing the Commissioners' float and helping make this event very much fun. And there's some pictures. The Library Brigade accompanied us again, did a great job. It was just a lot of fun and celebrating Independence Day. You heard about the one coming up in District 1, the fishing rodeo. It's that time of year for July. And our District 3 event will be at Ebenezer Downs Park, July 22nd, located at 4057 Ebenezer Road in Marietta. Looking forward to it again, and thanks to Charlie Monroe and the DNR for all their assistance as well. In June, we had Paddles in the Park pickleball tournament sponsored by the Northeast Cobb Business Association, of which I'm a charter member. And now we're still selling raffle tickets to benefit the Cobb Veterans Memorial Foundation. The prize is we're having 2 drawings for a $250 gift card donated by Marietta Family Restaurants to any of their locations seen here on the slide. So $10 are $10 each, or 3 for $25. The drawing will be held July 19th at the NCBA luncheon, and you can't win if you don't buy a ticket. So, and it does benefit the memorial. So we look forward to having that, and we thank Gus Tasoulis with Marietta Family Restaurants for donating the 2 gift cards. Superior Pets for Patriotic Vets is a program I started 6 years ago, and it's free adoptions dogs or cats from the Cobb County Animal Shelter for veterans. They're fully vetted, have all their shots, spayed or neutered, microchipped, and they're free for any veteran in Cobb County, in the state of Georgia. We've even had one adoption from South Carolina. So all veterans are welcome to go pick out your new best friend, free of charge. And our sponsor, Superior Plumbing, has made this possible. And we're at 240 adoptions so far. And last week, Atlanta News First did a story and featured one of our veterans who has adopted a dog named Stella. So you'll see this on the video.
Some dogs will be waiting out the fireworks in a new, loving home. One group is pairing shelter animals with our country's heroes for free.
Now this program, it's called Superior Pets for Patriotic Vets. It's already overseen 240 adoptions since it started back in 2017. Okay, so take a look here. These are some of the successful pairings from that program. The veterans begin by looking at 200 animals from Cobb County Animal Services online. They then book an appointment to visit the potential pet and then take their new friend home. According to the Department of Veterans Affairs, 20 to 30% of veterans live with post-traumatic stress disorder. A pet can reduce cortisol levels, anxiety, and stress, improve sleep, and provide non-judgmental companionship.
There's so much stress in life, whether you're a young veteran or an older veteran, and having a companion that keeps you young by playing with you and just having somebody there to reduce the stress of everyday life is a real blessing. So this program has a lot more return on investment to the community than just handing out dogs.
The initiative is sponsored by Superior Plumbing. The animals come spayed or neutered, microchipped, and come with their shots. Now, if you would like to participate, or if you know a veteran who might like to as well, you can look for this story on AtlantaNewsFirst.com or on the free.
And I'm sure some of you recognize the veteran, Phil Anzalone. He's very active in the community with the Pine Tree Civic Association and other events. So thank you.
All right. Thanks, Commissioner. We'll go on to Commissioner Sheffield.
District 4 news and updates. I was privileged to join the Miles Ahead Charter School principal and founder, Mrs. Colt Bloxon Pitts, last Saturday for the school's ribbon-cutting ceremony. The Powder Springs Charter School is dedicated to providing an education that allows students to reach their full potential, apply their education to improve their local and global communities, and prepare them to be miles ahead of what they ever thought possible. The curriculum includes science, technology, engineering, and math, or otherwise known as the STEM program, coding, and other 21st century skills for grades K through 8. The school is nestled on the Embassy Church campus located at 4665 Macklin Road in Powder Springs and is scheduled to open this fall. To learn more about the school and its mission, please visit milesaheadcharter.org. Are you looking for something fun and exciting to do tomorrow evening? Why not visit the Mabel House Amphitheater for Wind Down Wednesday? The Wednesday Wind Down series features local talent and is a great midweek break. Please note the new time for the Wind Down Wednesday series has been changed from 8 p.m. to 7 p.m. The final 2 concerts for the season will be on August 9th and September 13th. To purchase tickets, visit mabelhouse.org/amphitheater. Volunteers and outdoor enthusiasts are needed for a community project this Saturday. Join me and the Trust for Public Land staff as we prepare the Riverlands Trailhead Park site for guided tours as we anticipate the development of the regional trailhead. Volunteers will remove invasive plants, clear trails, make and install signs, remove trash, and/or spread mulch. While we are there, guides will lead us to points along the Riverland site where the Trust for Public Land and Cobb County will build a portion of a 2.7-mile section of Greenway Trail, trailheads, overlooks, and other amenities. This site is located at the intersection of Discovery Boulevard and Mableton Parkway. When you arrive, please pull into the site to make room for other vehicles. Lastly, please wear long pants, long sleeves, comfortable shoes, and sun protection, and bring water and gloves. For additional information, please contact walt.ray@tpl.org. Our local nonprofits have partnered with the Atlanta Braves Foundation for the organization's Home Plate event. The community food distribution event will take place on Monday, July 17th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Hope Family Resource Center will distribute back-to-school supplies at the event. Stop by for fresh and non-perishable foods, backpacks for kids, and Chick-fil-A sandwiches. The event will take place at the Gordon Road Village Shopping Center located at 6065 Mableton Parkway in Mableton. The Austell Community Task Force, in collaboration with the Empty Stocking Fund, will host their 22nd annual Back to School Jam on Saturday, July 22nd from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the South Cobb Recreation Center located at 875 Riverside Parkway in Mableton. The Empty Stocking Fund is a nonprofit organization that brings joy to the lives of disadvantaged children by providing toys and gifts during the holiday season and other core essential supplies throughout the year to support positive social and emotional development and academic success. Please scan the QR code to register. And to learn more about the Austell Community Task Force, please visit austelltaskforce.org. And to learn more about Empty Stocking Fund, please visit emptystockingfund.org. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you all for coming to today's meeting. We look forward to you joining us at future meetings. Again, we have 2 more public hearings with respect to our millage, and we'll be voting on the millage and budget at our evening meeting later this month. Thanks, and I hope you guys have a great rest of the day and week. Take care.
Thank you.